Welcome back to Knitches Get Stitches. I'm Melissa.
And I'm Trina.
And we're here today to talk to you about recognizing the deal.
And we're introducing a new segment of whether or not you should make it or take it.
Before we get started, we'll just do a little bit of catch up. So Trina and I got to be the backup singers to the ukulele band in Wilson, North Carolina, and open up the light show at the Botanical Gardens. It was all the sisters, actually. Melissa Trina and Bridget got to play backup singers to the Ukiversity ukulele band in Wilson, North Carolina. It was so much fun.
Yeah, like we told you, our dad, he volunteers at the Senior Citizen Center and teaches them how to play ukulele, and so they kick off the Botanical Garden light show with this ukulele band playing. And it was a lot of fun. We sang, gosh, probably about 40 minutes worth of songs. I improvised a little. They're songs that you know, so like you sing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and you can't help but had a very shiny nose. Whatever, you know. That's not the part. But we still improv and it was a lot of fun.
Trina carried us. Trina's the good singer in the family, so she set the tone and read the room, and we just all kindly followed along with her. And she made us look really great. It was awesome.
It was cold though. I had gloves to hold my music book and everything. But the ukulele players, again, are all senior citizens. And on top of that, they also couldn't wear gloves because they were playing instruments. And so a number of them just had we would take 20-second breaks in between each song so they could re-warm up their hands. So next year I'm making sure they invest in some hand warmers.
We have a few tweaks for next year, and one of them is definitely hand warmers for the ukulele players, because that hurts to play those strings when your fingers are cold.
Yeah, overall I think it was a great hit. Number of people came out, and I'd never been to the light show. It was really nice.
It was really nice.
Way denser than I thought it was. Shout out to Wilson, North Carolina for doing a good job.
Yeah, it was great. And that was our kickoff to the holiday season, and it was great. It, kind of set the tone for us and made us feel cheery. Then we came back, and last weekend we went to Philadelphia to visit with some family. And again, Bridget joined us, and we were able to go do the traditional Philadelphia holiday roundup. So we went to Macy's to see the light show, and the Dickens Village, the Comcast building, to see the light show that they put on in the lobby of the Comcast building. And then we went to, they have a local makers only market at the City Hall, which was fantastic.
Yeah, it was super cool.
And then they have a more traditional German Christmas market at Love Park, so we did all of that. It was fantastic.
Yeah, we also went to Franklin Square and saw the lights there. I hadn't been to a Philly Christmas probably since I was a kid. The show at Macy's is always the one classic thing that you always do. It's free and you just go to it. There's no waiting in line other than trying to find a good spot to watch the show. It was my first time seeing the Comcast show, and I didn't care for it. It really kind of creeped me out. They have this little, some of it was cute, it was snowmen singing, but there was one scene where it was just the Nutcracker, but the way they kept zooming in on the little girl's face just really creeped me out. They would just pose on her, and she'd have wind in her hair and maybe some fake snowflakes. I would not go back, and I wouldn't take people to it, honestly, other than to be make fun of this with me. But I was the only one who felt that way, so maybe that's just me. Maybe I have higher expectations, or lower expectations even. I want bottom of the barrel corny Christmas, apparently, because it was too much for me. I don't know. Anyway, but it was really fun. I also had no memory of Dickens Village, even though I'm sure Mom took us. But I had no memory of it, and it was really good. The first animatronic is so tiny. He's supposed to be human-sized, but he's not. He's smaller than a kid, and you're just oh, I'm supposed to expect that you're a full-grown person. So they were all so small. So the initial one was kind of weird because it was too small that I was this is not, I can't relate to how tiny you are. But then it got better, and it was really good. If you haven't been to Dickens Village in Philly, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things of the holiday season is to make sure I go trek up to Philly, just see all their things, because since we grew up there, and that's where I spent a lot of my Christmases, it hits that nostalgic beat for me.
Yeah. So that morning, I caught a train at 6 o'clock in the morning so that I could get there at 8:30. And then because I just really love being in my bed, I took a train out of Philly at 10:30 at night, more 11 o'clock, and got in and was home by 1 o'clock a.m. And the reason I didn't go on Friday was because I went to see Brian Setzer Orchestra at Anthem at the War Fund at DC, and that was a lot of fun too. So if you're not familiar with Brian Setzer, he was the front man for the Stray Cats in the early 80s, and then in the late 90s he did a cover of Jump Drivin' Whale, which was really popular for a little bit and kind of kicked off the big band ska feeling that we had in the late 90s. And that was a lot of fun. It was supposed to just be his Christmas show, so I was really nervous that he would only play Christmas songs, but he played his Stray Cat hits, he played Jump Drivin' Whale, he played another song from that first Jump Drivin' Whale album. It was a really good time, and I read somewhere, I don't know how factual this is, so don't at me, but I read somewhere once that he's considered one of the best guitarists of all time. And it was a real show, a real treat just watching him play guitar. He must be 60-something years old because he was 20 in the 80s. And so he's still jumping off of drum sets. He's still standing on upright basses and jumping off of them. He's still doing the like Marty McFly dance across the stage while playing guitar. So it was a lot of fun. I would go back and see Brian Setzer all over again. And Anthem, that was my first time going to Anthem for a show, and it was gorgeous, and they had lots of seating. Most of the seats were good. You were only ever like 3 rows back from something. People got up and danced and did some swing dancing, which was a lot of fun. It was a very nice venue and a really great show. But yeah, so I got back from that show around midnight, and then I got up at 4 to get to the train station by 5, to get on a train at 6, so I was pretty tuckered out by the next day and slept in pretty late. But well worth it. Philly Christmas is really great, and I just read in GQ that Philly got voted City of the Year, so Philly
was there for it.
Yeah, Philly's where it's at. I'm into it. We also went to Thanksgiving at my sister's in-laws' house, and it was wonderful. Rose is her mother-in-law's name, has decorated the house beautifully. However, as we've mentioned, we're from Philly, and so our diets at home were still very northern based, and my sister's in-laws are very much from the farms of North Carolina. And so she cooked some dishes I wasn't familiar with. We had to have her walk us around the buffet, so point out all the dishes we didn't know, but everything was still really good. But it was definitely funny that I was like, tell me about this dish. So it was really good, and it was really so nice of her to host us for Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah. I was super grateful that she brought a little bit of northern tradition down, because she bought canned cranberry sauce, which I was really appreciative of.
I think everyone loves canned cranberry sauce. It's the highlight of everyone's Thanksgiving and Christmas dinner. I was just telling my coworker at work that it was so interesting eating her Southern Thanksgiving dinner, because she cooks squash and onions, which I have never had squash and onions just as a side. But to me, it doesn't seem so special that it would be a Thanksgiving side, because so many of the foods that we eat at Thanksgiving and Christmas are specific to only Thanksgiving and Christmas. I mean, I never eat cranberry sauce outside of those 2 days, really. I rarely would ever cook a full turkey along with stuffing. Green bean casserole, I think, is also something that's pretty reserved for holidays, at least at my house. Sweet potato casserole, or autumn casserole, whatever people call it, like that's another one I think are like pretty reserved to holidays. And so that one dish, I was like, that dish is special enough to make it a Thanksgiving dinner? Okay, I don't know. You know, it's like if someone served me shrimp and grits. Some people think shrimp and grits is super fancy, but I couldn't care less about it. You know, I just be like, oh, grits, isn't that like what everyone in the South eats for breakfast?
Thanks.
I didn't care, you know, but but it was still a wonderful dinner, and so nice of her to host us. Something else we did was we delivered our Christmas boxes to everyone. Each holiday season I told her that I make pizzelles, and so I went ahead and made pizzelles for everyone. I got these done pretty quickly. It didn't take me 2 whole days. It only took me 2 hours this time, because I only had to make 120 of them versus 500, so that was pretty nice. And so Melissa and I delivered these yesterday to our neighbors. So these ones, I only put 1 pom-pom on. They're for my friends at work and my friends in my real life. But the neighbors, we put 3 on. And Melissa was asking yesterday, she said, do you think that they keep the pom-poms as decorations? Because you can keep them as a decoration if you wanted to.
It would become a Christmas ornament in my house.
Yeah. So,
a Christmas tree ornament, sorry.
Yeah, and so yeah, I got to make about 30 pom-poms, which, you know, I love. So I think that, I mean, that's kind of a project. So why don't we start talking about projects? Yeah.
I think you should go first, because she's got a pile, y'all.
Yeah, I have a lot. So Melissa took heed of, if you want something made, let me know about it. And she sent me a number of projects to do. So first I'll start with our Knitch-Along that we did last month. So this is Betty Cooper. I did a little mixed media. I used paint, and then I tried to dilute and dilute and dilute the paint more. more so that it would kind of give that neon light from Pop's sign over here, but it didn't really work out that well. But I'm really happy with how Betty came out. I'm really happy with her face. Her eyes look really good. Overall, I'm really happy with how this project turned out. I have no idea where I'm going to put it, who I'm going to give it to again. So if anyone really likes Betty, let me know and I will forward her to you. So the things that Melissa wanted made, initially she bought these 3-inch hoops because she thought that they would make good ornaments, but then when they arrived she realized how big they were. Because you never really know sizes until you're actually physically looking at it. So the first one I have is Joy, and this is the one that Melissa loves so much. It's her favorite thing of all time apparently. So when she first saw them, she decided, well, we decided that we would just give them to our family as Christmas presents instead. But then she saw how Joy turned out and she's like, nah, that's for me. And I have this mistletoe. So the mistletoe was cute. The mistletoe, as you can see, had a ton of satin stitch, and satin stitch is Melissa's favorite. I've since told Melissa that if you want something made, make sure it doesn't have any satin stitch in it. And then this little snowflake. Interestingly, the snowflake came with black. She wanted to use black floss for the snowflake, and I thought, why would I make a black snowflake? So I just used my own blue, and now I have this black stored away. The kit was from Lenny B on Etsy, and it came with the hoops, it came with the material, and you probably couldn't really tell, but it has snowflakes printed on it. It also came with a needle, and it came with all of the thread. And this was my first time working with DMC thread, which, according to the internet, is the name brand of embroidery floss. I didn't like it. It didn't have the same amount of sheen as the stuff I got from China does, and so it all kind of looked flat to me, and I found that it was really tough. It was almost gritty, like when I was trying to feed it through the needle and when I would feed it through the cloth. I was really surprised at how I preferred working with the Chinese floss, only because everyone tries to make you feel bad for using stuff from China. But I liked it. I like the Chinese floss versus the DMC floss, but we'll see. Maybe it was the type of floss that she sent. Maybe there's like different styles and I just had the style that's the cheapest and that's why it felt so great. And then I also made, so after we discovered that 3-inch ornaments were too big, it's like, Melissa, you should look up these 1-inch ones. So I have this tiny little Christmas tree, which I just kind of copied from the internet. Alright, so here we have Craftus with ornaments. I'm really pumped about him. He's super cute and came out really well. I had a good time with him, and him I also kind of just traced from the internet. Just looked up Christmas cactus, and that was it. And then Melissa asked that one of them be turned into a pin. Initially, I didn't remember what she had told me she wanted. She just said, I want a pin. I said, okay. And so I texted her and said, hey, what did you want on that pin? And she texted back, bioluminescent algae, which, if you'll remember, from the Make Wear Love retreat, we had quite the adventure surrounding bioluminescent algae. So I thought to myself, I know she's joking, but I'm gonna do it. So I came up with this. I wet the cloth that I was using, and then I painted it with blue and green markers to kind of make an ocean look, and then I just used silver floss to create the bioluminescent algae, and I'm super happy with how it turned out. It's so stinking cute. I really had low expectations for my own personal creativity, but when I was finished I was like, that looks exactly like what we saw. So I'm really happy with how it turned out. The last thing I have is, I don't know if I've mentioned before, but I make Shrinky Dinks, recycling number 6 plastic, those clamshell packaging. I learned about on the internet, and I'll link below to a video that helped me learn how to do it. But it's something that I think is really cute, and I often make pins out of them. But this year, while we were walking around the market in Philly, one of the things that we came across was a Pizzelle ornament. As you know, we like the Pizzelles. The cookies that we make for our neighbors and our friends are Pizzelle. And so Bridget said, Trina, you need to immediately get on this and make all of us Pizzelle ornaments. So this is not the perfect one, but this is the most perfect one so far. I'm still testing out sizes and testing out backgrounds to use, whether or not to use white. But this is the ornament and how it turned out. So I just, I drew it on there, and then I put it in the oven, and then it shrank, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. I'm sure that the next ones will be even better. I just have to get on them and making them. Fortunately, it takes no time. The drawing and the coloring is what takes the longest. The actual baking only takes like 4 minutes, so once it's a pretty instant gratification thing, because then it's done and you have a little ornament. It's super cute.
So last year Trina made me, I have like a hank of yarn, you know, like she made it look like one of these kind of hanks. So she has a hank, I have a hank of yarn pin that she made me, which is why this year I wanted the bioluminescent algae one, and she thinks I was kidding, but like that'll live on my yarn bag and it'll remind me of my adventures with my sister from that year, and it'll be my favorite thing. So I was unbelievably impressed with, I mean, honestly, how all of them turned out. But since that one was just like a text that said, you know, make me a pin with bioluminescent algae, and her execution was
Dunzo.
Stellar. Let's talk about some projects over here. So Sarah, if you'll remember from a few episodes back, asked for a hat, and then that hat got lost in the wilds of Brooklyn.
Yep, promptly lost it.
And it was fine, because honestly it was the project I was going to make again anyway for our Stitch-Along for Riverdale, because I don't know if you can see, yeah, there you can see it. See the little, like, it's got a chevron pattern, which to me reminded me of the crown that Jughead wears. So, yeah. And we have another fantastic pom-pom.
I love them.
That's really, I have a work in progress that I can show. So I finally started Trina's sweater, and I'm pretty stoked about it. I am knitting this in Portuguese style, and I have a tip and trick for you when we get to Drop a Dime, Save a Dime. But so here we go. This is just the bottom of her sweater. It's just knit in one piece in the round, and this is how far I have gotten. And the squishiness factor of this neighborhood fiber company is through the roof. This ribbing down here is just totally squishable.
I'm very excited.
I also made a poinsettia for Craftus. This is crocheted. This is one of my first crochet projects. I'm really pleased with how it turned out. I went to freecrochet.com, and there's this lovely lady who takes you through each step. She'll show you every stitch that you need. She'll walk you through how to make the tiny ones and the medium ones, and she was fantastic, so easy to follow. And as a kind of fledgling crocheter, I was so happy to have her in my life. So freecrochet.com, the poinsettia was just fantastic. And this is just using scrap yarn that was left over from a teddy bear I made.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so no cost, and using up some old yarn that I didn't have any other plans for.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's see where we can Disney bound our project. So, because it's really just me this week, the snowflake is gonna be Elsa. Who else would it be? I mean, Elsa is the queen of snow. And since it's almost her blue, it goes really well. And then I thought that the bioluminescent algae could go to Princess Kita in Atlantis.
I think that's perfect.
Yeah. Did you want to Disney bound anything?
Well, we already Disney bound the hat. Does anybody remember who the hat belongs to? Chef. Stove. The stove for Beauty and the Beast. I think we're moving into Drop a Dime, Save a Dime.
Hey.
I was doing some research, and I wanted to talk about recognizing a deal. So these little tiny balls of yarn are the Lion brand 100% cashmere, and they were on sale, and so I purchased them because I wanted to see, you know, they tell you how many yards and how many grams, but I wanted to see if it was actually worth buying it. So this is 100% cashmere yarn. They were $11 a piece on sale. That was on sale. So I spent $22, and this is what I wanted to really kind of explain to all of our viewers, is that I spent $22 for 50 grams of yarn, and I think it's these are 75 meters, so together they make 150 meters. When I went out to Ravelry to see what I could make with such little amounts of yarn, there was almost nothing. I can't even get mittens out of this. Like, I could make one blue mitten and one white mitten, but I can't get a set of mittens out of this. Here's kind of my example for comparison. This yarn is by Plucky Knitter, and this is her 60% cashmere, 40% silk. So it's not 100% cashmere, but her 100% cashmere is also the same price point. I just happen to like her yarn better with the silk in it, so we're going to use this one for a comparison. So this one is a different weight yarn, so I won't read to you the yardage, but trust me that if this is worsted, so you're supposed to be able to get 220 yards out of a worsted weight in 100 grams. and this is 100 grams of yarn, and it's $3.30. This is a sport weight. This cost me $40, which you think to yourself is a lot, right? I get it. But then buy as much of this as I already have of this, and you spend more than $40.
How much would it have been?
This comes out to like $44, $48. And here's what I'll tell you, and this is the difference in like quality. So Lion brand, mass produced, we all recognize kind of the Lion brand name, right? This is mass produced, and 25 grams. So remember, worsted is supposed to have 200 grams. If I bought 100 grams of this, I would have about 300 yards, because I would buy 4. Oh, so it's the same. It's the same. These are the same weight. So, because this is 330 yards. This is so over processed. I can't, like, I know that you can't see it necessarily, but this is super over processed. There's all these little flyaways. This yarn will pill like crazy. I can tell when it's still in the hank. This is a little bit under processed, so it'll soften quite a bit when you wash it, but this has more structure in it, and it's firmer, so it'll last longer in your knit goods. This is kind of the realization that I've come to, especially when I talk about shopping online. We have to pay very close attention to how much yarn they're giving us for that amount of money. So I think that Knit Picks is very frequently a very good deal when they're on sale. When we talk about their straight retail price, almost every kind of hank is 50 grams coming out of Knit Picks. So you kind of have to times everything by 2, especially if you're buying like enough for a sweater or a scarf, or if you only need 50 grams for a small hat, or if it's just for color work in a Fair Isle project. Then yes, it makes sense to buy less yarn because you need less yarn, but that's frequently not the case for me. Frequently I need 6 hanks of whatever I'm buying. When you're doing that cost comparison, really take into account kind of what you're making, what you're using that yarn for, and is it less expensive to buy that yarn online, knowing that you're getting half of what you would normally get in, say, like a yarn store 100 gram hank.
You're likely already applying the ounces to a price point at the grocery store to like compare like how much per penny you get of that item. And so it's important that you also just apply that to things that you're buying, not only online, but also for things that aren't food, because that's really what it comes down to. Is we're so used to doing that for things that we consume, but we're not necessarily consuming yarn, and you just think, I need this much for this project, but when you go and compare them, it ends up being more if you buy smaller quantities from the start. One of the things that Melissa found on her blog was someone was asking about how much they spent on faux fur pom-pom. And the woman had said she'd spent $25 on a pom-pom, and I was shocked, because I thought, if you're going to spend $25 on a pom-pom, you might as well just buy a pre-made hat from a store and then take that pom-pom off, because there's no reason why a pom-pom should cost $25, especially when it's faux fur. When Melissa told me that, I was like, well, maybe it's real fur, but why would you make a pom-pom out of real fur? That seems real dumb, so it's not actually warming anything. But then Melissa said, no, they're faux fur. And the only reason I can personally justify buying a pom-pom from a store is the color of it. If maybe they've somehow managed to dye it like a hot fuchsia, that's really what you want, then maybe. However, what we did was we're going to introduce this new segment of Make It or Take It, where we jokingly suggest, because of our vlog name of Knitches Get Stitches, as in Snitches Get Stitches, that you should take something if it's not worth making. But of course, we want to encourage you to spend money at small businesses around the globe and buy the thing that you actually want, if that's the case, if it's not worth making it. So please don't actually steal anything. But so what we wanted to do is we wanted to see if it was worth buying faux fur and then making our own pom-pom at home, and how much that cost would be. We went to our local thrift store and we walked around the coat section, where we'd most likely find a large amount of faux fur in one piece. While the coats were kind of steep, we did find this one suit jacket that had a fur collar that was detachable, so it worked out really well for our project. And so I've already made the pom-pom, but this is how big it was. So I only cut off this end. So it was really just this big, folded in half. So it's not that big. Maybe it's like 2.5 feet long. The staple wasn't as big as the DIY video that I watched. She said that you wanted to find one that was as long as possible, but considering what we were doing and that this was really just a test pom-pom and we weren't necessarily giving it away, we kind of said, well, we'll make sure that it just works enough for what we're doing. All I did was trace a circle. I even freeballed it. I didn't even like get something out that was circular and trace it. I just kind of went around with the scissors. And then I had this flat piece of material, and then all I did was sew it together the same way that I do the back of my embroidery hoops to close up the thing so I can put a cover on it. So I just did that, and then I stuffed it with a little bit of polyfill, and it looks really good. Yeah, it looks, we're really happy with how it turned out. I don't have any complaints about it. There's the back of it. And we just got lucky in that because it was detachable, it also has its own little hook on the back for when you want to attach it to a hat. So it's got this little, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, this little elastic string, yeah, you can't really see it, to attach to a button, and then easy peasy, it's already there. So we got lucky with this piece. But the whole jacket, along with the fur, cost us $7, and this piece, just say, cost us $2 since the jacket is actually wearable and still very nice. And so we were able to make this one pretty decent pom-pom, I think, for about $1. And it took me less than 10 minutes to complete this craft. You do have to have polyfill, and you do have to have a needle and thread and scissors. Likely things that you all have at home. This project cost almost no money, honestly. We did see this one jacket that was $65, and we did a little bit of math on it, and we think that we could have gotten about 60 pom-poms out of that one jacket. And so it would have been about $1 a pom-pom. And so there's honestly no reason, I think, that you couldn't make it at home. And that's make it or take it.
Great job, Trina. It was such an interesting concept, and it's the first time, like, I've always wanted to like go and try to find old sweaters at the thrift store and then reuse the yarn and recycle that way. I've always been really interested in that, but this was like the first time we were able to like actually go to the thrift store and find something and turn it into what we wanted it to be.
So if you think there's something that you aren't sure if it's worthy of making it or taking it, let us know in the comments below, and we'll try and do some experiments for y'all. We're well versed in a variety of crafts, so we'll try our best.
Yes.
But nothing too experienced.
We can't change an old skirt into a new skirt.
Yeah,
there's that lady.
Yeah, that is like honestly the one thing I want to work so hard towards is learning how to alter clothing that's already made so that it fits my body. Now I will say the only complaint I had about making this is, for those of you who know me and for those of you who don't know me, I hate hair. If it's not on your body, it physically grosses me out. And even though this was acrylic hair, it still looked like real hair when I was cutting it on the table, and I was gagging so hard making that pom-pom. So I don't know that I will be making pom-poms in the future from Melissa, but I still think that they're make-worthy. Our kitchen table was just covered in this hair, and I was like, I can never eat here again. I need to set this on fire. I did not care for it one bit.
Next month's Drop a Dime, Save a Dime, we're going to talk about kind of enjoyment math and how you can work out the math to be able to afford higher end yarns if that's what you want. If that's not what you want and you're happy with making sure that you get as much out of as little money as possible, then that's great. And I love doing that for certain projects, but sometimes you want to treat yourself to maybe a different kind of yarn, and so we'll work out the math for how much you're spending on your enjoyment so that you can see if it's good for you.
Alright, let's move on to our StitchFlix this week.
For our StitchFlix this week, I would like to talk about some of the things that I've been reading and or watching. I kind of have a spoiler alert, so Trina's gonna flash some spoiler alert, and you feel free to go forward about 3 minutes. Because This Is Us blew my mind for their season ending show, and I'm super concerned about Randall and Beth. I made Trina watch it because I'm like, I needed somebody to talk to about this, and so to my community, help me. I need to talk about Randall and Beth. I'm very concerned. They're my favorite couple in the show, and so, you know, if you feel like talking me down from the ledge, I'm very worried that there's something gone awry in their relationship and they won't be able to come back from it.
Yeah, it's so hard because in the beginning of that episode where she's pumping him up before the debate, you think, man, hashtag relationship goals, like, that's what I want. And at the end of the episode, you're like, oh no.
Oh no.
Let us know what your feelings were about This Is Us this week, because it's definitely worrisome that the best couple on the show.
Best couple in the world, man.
Yeah, honestly, best couple in the world. I was telling Melissa I had some issues with the Thanksgiving episode because we really delved into Miguel's story, but it was super confusing because I was like, I thought that Miguel and Sherry split amicably. They had like that dinner with the Pearsons to be like, oh yeah, no, like we both want this, and suddenly Mom Pearson stole the husband, and I was like, they had already long been divorced. Like, what is this attack? I'm so confused. I had to stop in the middle of this and be like, Melissa, I don't know what's happening here.
Why are you making me watch this?
Yeah, that Thanksgiving episode was weird.
Yeah.
But the part with Kate and Toby was great. They're great too. They're a good couple too. They're all good couples.
I love This Is Us. So, but I'm still really worried. My books have been a little bit low lately because it is the holiday season, so I'm a Hallmark movie channel girl. Big Hallmark Christmas movie fan over here. Trina will walk in. What are you watching, Hallmark? The other day we were at our parents' house and my mom turned on Hallmark, and within like 3 minutes I could name the movie, and Trina was like, so you've seen this one?
Yeah, like they just like flipped to the channel and Melissa's like, oh, that's Christmas Ghost. It's like, one, what? Two, I'm really impressed that you knew that immediately. No hesitation. Oh, Christmas Ghost.
So, just all season. So my books are a little bit low, but I did finish American Gods. What a fantastic book. So I'll probably tell you that I watched the Stars show, but I'm blown away with how good this book was. I loved all the Rick Riordan, Percy Jackson novels, all those Olympian gods and Roman gods, and I really enjoyed that. But this perspective from Neil Gaiman about American gods and how gods are created, it was fantastic. Yeah. It was incredible.
That's good.
Highly recommend it. I also read, and it's kind of getting an iffy from me, I also read that Eleanor Oliphant is completely fine. The world loves this book, and I can understand why the world loves this book. I don't think I agree with the world. The plot in it it's not that the plot has big holes, but it doesn't have a good conclusion. You kind of have to create your own reason for why you read this book, and I'm not necessarily a huge fan of that. Sometimes I read thought-provoking books, but mostly I read just to be entertained, and this one was more thought-provoking, and I wasn't really prepared for that. So what do you have going on, Trine?
So, I'm still reading The Brothers Karamazov. I actually just recycled the book. I told you that the book copy was falling apart, so I just recycled that. I've been trying to listen to it. I told y'all that. I did listen to it one whole day. I found it on YouTube. There are 3 parts. All of them are about 12 hours long. I made it through the first one, and I absorbed some of it. And then I tried to listen to it at work, and I absorbed almost none of it. I just kept thinking to myself, are they still talking? So there's the scene where Alyosha meets up with Ivan at the bar, and they must have talked on the audio tape for 3 hours. And I just thought, how is this important to the plot? It can't be. This conversation, nothing is happening. They're just talking about both of their religious views. We move on to Father Zosima on his deathbed, and he just keeps talking about his brother. That he had a brother and the brother inspired him, and that was it. And I was like, are we still listening to this? Why aren't you dead yet? I couldn't handle it, and I am beginning to think that the way that Upton Sinclair really wanted you to learn and love socialism with the jungle, I think that Dostoevsky really wanted you to bring him over to his side of how he viewed religion, but really all we read about was murder. And there's just no way I'm going to get any religion from this book because it just goes on way too long. And I am not even halfway through, and I want to just reread the Cliff Notes and then call it a day because I'm done with this novel. I'm going to see it through, but only audibly. I'm not gonna read it. It's not worth my time. I'm sorry for any Karamazov lovers out there. I'm sorry. And I finally, after months and months of waiting, have just gotten The Hate U Give. I haven't started it yet, but I'm going to take a break from Boris Karamazov and read that because the library only gave me like a week and a half to read it because everyone wants it. So that's next on my list. And then I put in a ton of Showtime, which you all know that I watch TV and I love it. So I watched a lot of shows. So I said that I went to go visit my friend Spoon last episode, and while I was there, he made me watch this show called The Ozarks with Jason Bateman and Laura Linney. I really like Jason Bateman. I watch a lot of the stuff that he's in. However, I think I've mentioned this before, I really struggle with anti-hero shows where there's no one clear good guy, because I want to escape from real life issues. Like, everyone's got real life crappy issues. Everyone's kind of like a little bit crappy. And so like I don't want that in my TV viewing. I want to escape from all of it. But the Ozarks didn't let me do that. Yet it's a compelling story, and I'm kind of worried about some of the characters. But I do not care for it, and I do not recommend it. For me personally, this is not my kind of show. Spoon and I watch a lot of TV shows together, and so we're always trying to turn one another onto a show that we like, but this one is not for me. I, of course, am keeping up with Riverdale. This show's so wild, man. That's all I'm going to say, but this show is crazy. I watched the Princess Switch. I'm not normally a Christmas movie watcher, and I wouldn't actually classify the Princess Switch as a Christmas movie. It's just a movie that happens to take place at Christmas. I watched it because I think there was a BuzzFeed article that said something along the lines of, Vanessa Hudgens just came out with a movie and it's just like Parent Trap. So I went and read the synopsis, and it's not Parent Trap, it's Of the Prince and the Pauper by Mark Twain. And it made me so mad. I was like, those two stories are not the same. Like, one is two twins finding one another and then trapping their parents into getting married again. The other is two people who look very much alike switch places for the day so that one prince, aka the princess, can go like lead a normal life and see what normal life is like. And the other one gets to experience what it's like to be a royal. And it made me so mad. I was like, read a book, y'all. Dang, man. Anyway, it was cute. There was a lot of suspending reality because they fall in love with each other's person in under 2 days, which I just have a hard time believing that that's actually how love works. But it was still cute. I had to push through all these tiny projects, and so I couldn't look away from the project, and so I was just killing time with the Great British Bake Off, and that show's fun. I'm still only on season 1, so don't at me. I watched The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. I didn't care for it, in that I thought it was going to be a lot about Sabrina. I'm not even comparing it to the TV show, because I didn't watch the TV show religiously. Like, I watched a handful of episodes because TGIF, but I didn't watch it as a fan. And so I can't even compare it to that show. But there was just a lot of like monster and episodes, and that's not what I wanted. Like, I wanted a story of Sabrina, and you know, she's really challenging for all these things about like what it's like to want to be a witch but also be a modern witch. But she comes through it in a very difficult way and a very challenging way that like it's not helping people accept her views and helping people come around to them. Some of the aspects of the story are compelling. I'm not that fond of it. I'll probably watch it just to learn what happened, but I wouldn't recommend it right off the bat. I also watched Preacher, so after I finished watching Misfits, a number of the actors in Misfits are in Preacher, and I was like, well, I like these actors, so I'll go and I'll watch Preacher. And that show I also don't really recommend. I watched a lot of shows that I don't recommend. That one I was specifically watching for this actor named Joe Gilgun. His part is so small, even though he's like on all of the Comic-Con panels as what made me think a lead character, but everyone's part is kind of small, even though they're the main cast. I don't know. I want more Joe Gilgun. What can I say? I also watched The Man Who Invented Christmas, which was really good. Again, not a big fan of Christmas movies, but I wouldn't even consider that one necessarily a Christmas movie. It's it's a story that takes place at Christmas. But it's the story of Charles Dickens and how he wrote A Christmas Carol. It features Matthew from Downton Abbey. It was good. I really liked it. Last but not least, the American gem that is American Vandal. I finished that second season. I'm so sad to hear that it's been canceled, because Melissa will never ever again get to experience walking through the room and learning about a turd burglar, because they must have said turd burglar 17 times an episode. and it was hilarious. Man, that show was so good. I'm so mad they canceled it. Let us know what you're watching in the comments below. And if you've watched any of the things that we watched, let us know how you feel about them.
So let's talk about our Stitch-Along for this month. I'm a real big fan of being like the holiday elf. It's my turn to be in charge of the house decorations, and I kind of get really happy about this season. And so, because of the spirit of the holidays, our Stitch-Along this month will be just holiday themed. Just anything you'd like to make. If you feel moved to make a tree ornament, or for example, I made Craftus a poinsettia.
Yep.
Trina made also Christmas ornaments. If you feel like you wanted to just make a hat as a gift, I think that falls into holiday Stitch-Along. Anything that you feel moved by for the holiday.
We've already made our thing, so...
It's me, Keanu.
Keanu Reeves?
Yeah, I'm your spirit teacher.
Okay. Well, Craftus, does Keanu have any tips for getting through the holidays?
People can't be excellent to you unless you're being excellent to yourself.
Good advice. Thank you, Craftus? Keanu? Craftu? So make sure you tag us on Instagram with Knitch-Along, that's Knitch along, so that we can see your projects. We look forward to seeing them.
I think that wraps us up for this episode. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought of the episode, what you'd like to see in future episodes. I'll tell you, we're kind of running out of ideas for Drop a Dime, Save a Dime. So tell us how you'd like to learn how to save money on our craft, or justify spending money on our craft. I'm in for both of those. We'll see you next time.
See y'all later.